The old scooter sputtered through morning rush hour traffic. Its engine wheezed. Its paint was faded and scratched from years of use, and the man riding it looked even older than the machine itself. He was maybe 75, thin, weathered, gripping the handlebars with determination despite the morning cold. On the back of his scooter was a delivery box, secured with worn rope. Inside, medicine. He weaved carefully through the expensive cars surrounding him, BMWs, Mercedes, Audis, all rushing to important meetings. Nobody noticed the old man on the ancient scooter. He was invisible, just part of the city's background noise. The old man checked his watch, 7:42 a.m. He needed to make this delivery by 8. She needed these today. He accelerated slightly, the scooter's engine protesting. Then, suddenly, a flash of red, a luxury sports car, a Ferrari, turning the corner too fast. The driver didn't see him. Crash! Metal against metal. The scooter flipped. The old man flew through the air and hit the pavement hard. Medicine boxes exploded across the road. Pills, bottles, prescriptions, scattering everywhere. The Ferrari screeched to a stop. Traffic froze. People rushed over immediately. "Someone call an ambulance! Is he breathing? Don't move him!" The driver's door of the Ferrari opened. A young man stepped out, maybe 38 years old, designer suit, expensive watch, the kind of person who drove a car worth $500,000. His name was Marcus Bennett, and he looked genuinely shocked. Marcus ran to the old man, who was trying to sit up despite bleeding from his arm. "Sir, please don't move, you're hurt." But the old man wasn't listening. He was crawling on his hands and knees, gathering the scattered medicine boxes. "No, no, no," the old man whispered, frantically picking up bottles. "I can't be late. She needs these today." Marcus knelt beside him. "Sir, you need medical attention. You're bleeding." "I have to deliver these," the old man insisted, his voice cracking. "I can't be late. If I'm late, I don't get paid. If I don't get paid—" He stopped, his hands shaking as he clutched a medicine bottle. A crowd had formed, 20, 30 people, phones out, recording. Marcus looked at the scattered medicine, then at the destroyed scooter, then at the old man's desperate face. "Who needs the medicine?" Marcus asked quietly. The old man looked up, tears in his eyes. "My granddaughter." And that's when Marcus Bennett's entire world shifted. Because this wasn't just an accident. This was a window into a life he'd never understood. Let's go back. To understand this moment, you need to know the story. The old man's name was Robert Mitchell. He was 76 years old. He'd been a schoolteacher once, decades ago, before retirement, before everything changed. He'd lived a simple but comfortable life, a wife, a daughter, a son-in-law, a granddaughter. His daughter, Lisa, had married young, 23, a kind man, an accountant. They had a baby girl, Emma. Robert remembered the day Emma was born, the happiest day of his life after his own daughter's birth. He and his wife had spoiled that little girl. Every weekend, they'd watch her while Lisa and her husband worked. Life was peaceful, until the car accident. Emma was 6 years old when it happened. Lisa and her husband were driving home from a weekend trip. A drunk driver ran a red light. Both killed instantly. Robert and his wife became Emma's guardians overnight. Two elderly people suddenly raising a traumatized 6-year-old. But they managed. They loved that little girl with everything they had. Robert's wife, especially, poured all her grief into caring for Emma. She helped with homework, braided her hair, made her favorite meals. For 5 years, they built a new normal. Until Robert's wife got sick. Cancer. It took her in 8 months. Now it was just Robert and Emma, an old man and an 11-year-old. But they survived. Robert worked part-time. Emma studied hard. They lived simply, but they were okay. Then Emma turned 18, and the symptoms started. Fatigue, weakness, pain in her joints. The doctors ran tests. The diagnosis came back devastating. A rare autoimmune disorder, treatable but not curable. She'd need medication for the rest of her life. And the medication was expensive. Robert had some savings, his pension, his wife's life insurance. He paid for the first year of treatment, then the second year. By the third year, the money was gone. He sold their house, moved into a tiny apartment, sold his wife's jewelry, the family heirlooms, sold everything. But Emma's condition worsened. The basic medication wasn't enough anymore. She needed stronger treatments, more expensive treatments. Robert was 72 years old, with no money, and a granddaughter who would die without medication he couldn't afford. That's when he started working delivery. At first, just small packages, documents, letters. But then he heard that medical couriers made more money, delivering medicine and supplies to hospitals and clinics. It was harder work, longer hours, early mornings and late nights, but it paid better. So Robert, at 73, bought a used scooter with the last of his money, and he started delivering medicine. The irony wasn't lost on him. Delivering medicine to save other people so he could afford medicine to save his granddaughter. For 3 years he worked, 6 days a week, sometimes 7, 12-hour shifts, in rain, in heat, in cold. His back ached, his hands cramped from gripping the handlebars. But every night he came home to Emma, now 23 years old, working part-time when she felt strong enough, trying to help. "Grandpa, you should rest," she'd tell him. "I'm fine," he'd always say. "As long as you're okay, I'm fine." But the medication was getting more expensive, and Robert was getting older. This morning, he'd woken up at 5 a.m. His route included 8 deliveries. If he completed them all on time, he'd make enough to buy Emma's medication for the next 2 weeks. If he was late, he'd lose the bonus pay, and without that bonus, he'd be short. So when Marcus Bennett's Ferrari came around that corner too fast, when the crash happened, when medicine scattered across the road, Robert wasn't thinking about his injuries. He was thinking about Emma, about the medication she needed, about the delivery bonus he was about to lose. Now, back to the accident scene. Marcus knelt beside the old man, watching him frantically gather medicine bottles with shaking, bleeding hands. "Sir, please," Marcus said, "let me help you. We need to get you to a hospital." "I don't need a hospital," Robert said, his voice breaking. "I need to finish my deliveries. I need—" He tried to stand, but his leg gave out. Pain shot across his face. The crowd gasped. Someone called out, "The ambulance is coming!" "No," Robert said desperately. "I can't afford an ambulance. I can't—" Marcus put a hand on the old man's shoulder. "Don't worry about money. I'll pay for everything. This was my fault." Robert looked at him, really looked at him for the first time. This young man in his designer suit, his luxury watch, the kind of person who probably never worried about money in his life. "You don't understand," Robert said quietly. "It's not about the accident. It's about my granddaughter. She needs her medication today. If I don't finish my route, I don't get paid enough. And if I don't get paid enough—" His voice broke completely. The crowd had gone silent. Everyone was listening now. Marcus swallowed hard. "What's wrong with your granddaughter?" he asked quietly. Robert closed his eyes. "She has an autoimmune disorder. The medication keeps her stable. Without it, she gets worse, much worse." He opened his eyes, looking at Marcus with desperate honesty. "I've been doing this for 3 years, delivering medicine so I can afford her medicine. I'm 76 years old. I have no other way." The words hung in the air. Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. He was a billionaire, self-made, tech industry. He'd built an app that revolutionized online payments and sold it for $3 billion. He'd spent the morning driving to a board meeting in his Ferrari, rushing because he was late, and now he'd hit an old man who was rushing to save his granddaughter's life. Marcus looked at the scattered medicine boxes. One of them had a hospital label, St. Mary's Medical Center. Marcus's breath caught. He knew that hospital. His foundation had donated $15 million to them last year for their charity care program for patients who couldn't afford treatment. And here was a man delivering medicine to that same hospital because he couldn't afford treatment for his own granddaughter. The irony cut like a knife. "What's your granddaughter's name?" Marcus asked quietly. Emma Mitchell. She's 23. Marcus stood up and pulled out his phone. "What are you doing?" Robert asked. "I'm calling my assistant. We're going to fix this." "I don't need charity," Robert said,
his voice firm despite his pain. "I just need to finish my work." "This isn't charity," Marcus said. "This is me making sure you and your granddaughter are taken care of, because this accident was my fault, and because—" He paused, looking at the old man. "Because you shouldn't have to choose between your health and hers. By the way, I'm curious, where are you watching this from? What city or country? Let me know in the comments. I love hearing where these stories reach." The ambulance arrived. Paramedics rushed to Robert. Marcus spoke quickly to his assistant on the phone. "I need a car to pick up medication deliveries. I need the scooter towed and repaired. No, replaced, brand new. And I need a driver to complete today's route under this man's name so he doesn't lose his pay." His assistant was used to unusual requests. "Done. Anything else? Find out where St. Mary's charity care applications are processed. I want to know why this man's granddaughter isn't covered." Marcus hung up and turned to the paramedics. "Take him to St. Mary's Medical Center. All expenses on me. Here's my card." Robert tried to protest from the stretcher. "I can't accept." "You're not accepting. I'm paying. There's a difference." The paramedics loaded Robert into the ambulance. As the doors closed, Marcus called after him. "I'm coming to the hospital. I want to meet your granddaughter." The ambulance drove away. Marcus stood in the middle of the street, surrounded by the crowd, looking at his Ferrari with its dented bumper. He didn't care about the car. He cared about the old man who'd been invisible to him 30 seconds before the crash. How many others was he not seeing? At the hospital, Robert was treated for a fractured wrist, bruised ribs, and multiple abrasions. The doctor wanted to keep him overnight for observation. Robert refused. "I need to see my granddaughter. She'll be worried." The nurse tried to convince him to stay, but Robert was already pulling his IV. That's when Marcus walked in. "Mr. Mitchell, please, let them treat you properly." Robert looked up. "You came?" "I said I would. The deliveries are being completed. Your pay is secured. Your scooter is being replaced. Now please, rest." Robert's eyes filled with tears. "Why are you doing this?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Because this morning, I was rushing to a board meeting that didn't matter, and I hit a man who was rushing to save someone who did matter. That changes a person." He leaned forward. "Where is Emma? I'd like to meet her." Robert hesitated. "She's at home, in our apartment. I don't want her to see me like this. She'll blame herself." "Then let's call her. Let her know you're okay." Marcus nodded. He handed Robert a phone. The call connected. "Grandpa?" A young woman's voice, worried. "Where are you? Your shift should be done." "I'm fine, Emma. There was a small accident, but I'm okay. I'm at St. Mary's." "An accident?" Panic flooded her voice. "Are you hurt?" "I'm coming." "Emma, no, you're not strong enough today." "I'm coming." The line went dead. Robert looked at Marcus with fear. "She can't exert herself. If she pushes too hard—" "I'll have my driver pick her up." Marcus was texting. "What's your address?" 20 minutes later, Emma Mitchell arrived. She was thin, pale, but there was fire in her eyes. She rushed into her grandfather's hospital room and threw her arms around him. "Grandpa, what happened?" "I'm fine, Emma. Just a little accident." Emma pulled back, noticing Marcus for the first time. "Who are you?" Marcus stood. "My name is Marcus Bennett. I'm the one who hit your grandfather's scooter. This is my fault." Emma's expression hardened. "You hit him?" "It was an accident," Robert said quickly, "and he's been very kind." "Kind?" Emma turned to Marcus. "My grandfather is 76 years old. He works 12-hour days on a scooter because I'm sick, and you hit him with your car?" Her voice was shaking with anger and fear. Marcus didn't defend himself. "You're right. I was driving too fast. I wasn't paying attention, and I'm sorry." Emma looked at him, really looked at him. Designer suit, expensive watch. The kind of person who probably had never worried about money in his life. "People like you," she said quietly, "don't understand what it's like. You probably spent more on your car than my grandfather will ever make in his entire life." "You're right," Marcus said again. Emma blinked, surprised by his honesty. "I don't understand," Marcus continued, "but I'm trying to. Your grandfather told me about your condition, about the medication, about why he works so hard." He paused. "And I want to help." "We don't need charity," Emma said, echoing her grandfather's words. "It's not charity," Marcus said. "My foundation supports St. Mary's Charity Care program. There's no reason you shouldn't be covered." He pulled out his phone and showed her a website. "This is the application. Have you applied?" Emma looked at her grandfather. "We tried 2 years ago. They said we made too much." "Too much?" Marcus frowned. "How much does your grandfather make?" Robert spoke quietly. "About $1,800 a month. After my pension and Emma's part-time work, we're at $2,500 total." Marcus stared at him. "And they said that was too much?" "The cutoff was $2,000 for a household of 2, Emma said bitterly. "We were $500 over." Marcus felt sick. $500. He'd spent more than that on lunch last week. "That's going to change," he said. Over the next hour, Marcus made calls to the hospital administrator, to his foundation director, to his lawyer. By the time he was done, Emma's treatment was fully covered, retroactively for the past 2 years, and ongoing for as long as she needed it. Robert couldn't speak, he just cried. Emma stared at the paperwork in disbelief. "Why?" she finally asked Marcus. "Why are you doing this?" Marcus looked at her. This young woman who'd been fighting a disease while watching her grandfather work himself to death. "Because I can," he said simply, "and because you shouldn't have to suffer because of a $500 bureaucratic cutoff." He stood to leave. "Wait," Emma said. Marcus turned. "Thank you," she whispered. Marcus smiled. "Take care of your grandfather. Make sure he actually rests." As he walked out of the hospital, Marcus felt different, lighter, like something had shifted inside him. He'd built companies, made billions, donated millions to charity, but today was the first time he'd actually seen the people his money was supposed to help, and it had taken a car accident to open his eyes. 3 months later, Robert stood in his small apartment, looking at his brand new scooter, except he didn't need it for deliveries anymore. The foundation had not only covered Emma's treatment, they'd hired him as a consultant. His job? Identifying elderly workers in the delivery industry who needed support. He made the same money, but he worked from home. Emma was getting stronger. The new medication was working better. She'd even started taking college classes online. Life wasn't perfect, but it was better. One afternoon, there was a knock at the door. Robert opened it to find Marcus standing there. "Mr. Mitchell, I hope I'm not intruding." "Not at all," Robert said, surprised. "Please, come in." Marcus entered the small apartment. Emma was at the table, studying. She looked up and smiled. "Mr. Bennett, it's good to see you." "Please, call me Marcus." They sat together, drinking tea. "I wanted to give you an update," Marcus said. "Because of your case, we've revised the foundation's eligibility criteria. We've helped 230 families in the last 3 months who were previously denied." Robert's eyes widened. 230? "And that's just the beginning," Marcus said. "We're partnering with other hospitals, creating a national database, making sure people don't fall through the cracks because they're $500 over an arbitrary line." He looked at Robert and Emma. "You changed everything, both of you." Robert shook his head. "We didn't do anything. You did." "No," Marcus said firmly. "I wrote a check. You lived the struggle that I needed to understand. You showed me what real sacrifice looks like." He paused. I was rushing to a board meeting that morning, worried about stock prices and quarterly projections, and I almost killed a man who was rushing to save his granddaughter's life. Marcus's voice grew thick. That accident didn't just change your life, it changed mine. What time is it where you are right now? Morning, afternoon, late night? I love knowing when people are hearing this story. Let me know in the comments. 6 months after the accident, Emma was healthy enough to attend university in person. Robert went with her on her first day, not because she needed help, but because he wanted to see it. His granddaughter walking through a university gate, something that would have been impossible 6 months ago. As they walked across campus, Emma took her grandfather's hand. "Grandpa, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you ever think about that morning, the accident?" Robert was quiet for a moment. "Every day." "Do you wish it hadn't happened?" Robert stopped walking. He looked at his granddaughter. Healthy, smiling, hopeful. "That accident saved your life," he said. "And it saved mine, too. I was killing myself trying to keep you alive. Now I get to actually live with you." He squeezed her hand. "So no, I don't wish it hadn't happened, because sometimes the worst moments lead to the best changes." Emma hugged him. "I love you, Grandpa." "I love you too, sweetheart." They kept walking, and somewhere across the city, Marcus Bennett sat in a board meeting. But this time, he wasn't rushing. He wasn't thinking about stock prices. He was thinking about the quarterly report from his foundation, about the families helped, about the lives saved, about the old man on a scooter who taught him what really mattered. The lesson? Sometimes we're moving so
fast, we can't see the people around us. We're rushing to meetings that don't matter, while others are rushing to survive. It takes a moment, sometimes a crash, to wake us up, to show us that success without compassion is meaningless, that wealth without empathy is empty, that we're all connected, and that the measure of a life isn't what you accumulate, it's what you give and who you help along the way. Robert Mitchell spent 3 years delivering medicine so his granddaughter could live. Marcus Bennett spent $3 billion building an empire, but it took one accident for both of them to understand what wealth really means. It's not about the money you make, it's about the lives you touch, the people you see, the hands you hold, the burdens you help carry. Sometimes accidents aren't accidents. Sometimes they're exactly what we need: to slow down, to look around, to see the people we've been too busy to notice, and to remember that we're all just trying to take care of the people we love. If this story touched your heart, drop a heart in the comments. Follow for more stories that remind you what really matters. And the next time you're rushing somewhere, take a breath, look around. You never know whose life might intersect with yours, and you never know how one moment might change everything for everyone.